So, I want to take a journey with you, if you will entertain me for a bit. Let's say we are going to take a jog in your community. Okay, I don't jog. We'll take a stroll in your community. How about that? So we decided to take a stroll, and there's this community garden of sorts, kind of a co-op. The community members are responsible for the upkeep of this community garden. It's got several different flower beds throughout it. And as we're strolling, you notice this one vibrant, beautiful flower in a very overgrown, unkept flower garden. And you say, Carlyn, wait a minute. We need to do something about this. We walk over to the flower garden, to that flower bed in particular. What do you decide to do? Do you pluck the flower from the flower bed with the intent to repot it in a nicer flower bed somewhere else? Or do you get down on your knees and start pulling the weeds from the flower bed? Do you find tools to rake the rock and the broken glass from the soil? Do you improve the environment for the flower? Or do you simply pluck the flower, traumatize its roots, and perhaps stunt its growth with the intent to repot it in a cleaner, nicer flower bed? If you decided that you wanted to pluck it, let's explore what happens. Now, I'm not a green thumb by any stretch of the imagination, but I've killed a few plants in my time. And I'll submit to you that if you pull a young plant too soon from its soil, you can kill it. And if you decide to repot it for a period of time, it has to adjust to the new soil. So for a period of time, it will wilt. And then you have to give it a little extra attention, nurturing, a little more love and care, just to bring it back to where it was before. Sometimes you can add a little more water. I need a little water. Sometimes it still doesn't grow though. It doesn't perk back up. Something is missing. Sometimes the pH balance is just not correct because it's not that flower's original soil. Sometimes the flower never adjusts. Now, if you thought the best thing to do was to kneel down and clean out the flower bed, then you've got the right idea for how we can improve and enhance our child welfare system. Because every child in foster care is a child who's not in their flower bed. Now, how do attorneys, parent attorneys, family defenders help strengthen families? We try to keep those flowers in their flower beds. If we can't keep them in their flower beds, we work earnestly with urgent persistence to get them back in their flower beds. Because foster care is a last resort. Plucking that flower is your last resort as a community member responsible for that flower garden. I want to tell you a little story about a client I had named Kelly. Now, Kelly and I have an interesting how I met my lawyer story, not to be confused with how I met your mother. That's not how I met Kelly. So I had the community coordinator call me and she said, Carlyn, I've got this lady. I really want you to talk with her. I'm concerned that she's just at the point of giving up. You know, the agency is saying she's non-compliant. She won't work with them. She cancels her appointments, and she really needs help. She's got 5 children in foster care in 3 different foster homes. And so I took my students who are in, or at the time they were in the Child Welfare and Family Justice Clinic at MC Law with me, to CPS for what was supposed to be a family team meeting. And I was going to casually introduce myself to her and see if we couldn't start a relationship of some type and engage her in services, or legal services rather. When I walked in the room, I said, "Hi, I'm Carlyn Hicks." And she said, "Oh, I've heard of you." I thought, I hope it's all good. And she said, "Somebody gave me your card several months ago." Well, now I'm confused, right? I said, why didn't you call me when you got my card? And the conversation went from casual and lighthearted. I could see the lights in her eyes dim. And she said, I am tired of having to continue to tell my story and nothing changes. So she didn't want to call me because she didn't want to have to tell this story to another person, and nothing changed. And so we started talking and interviewing with her, and in the course of our interview, I just wanted to know some basic things. How do you parent? Tell me about your kids. And at that point, CPS had kind of said, well, she's just non-compliant, she's not engaged, she's not interested. And as she talked about her kids, I saw the life in her come back. And she told me how her daughter liked her chicken cut. She told me how her sons have to go to sleep with the television on. She told me all these things about her children. Now let me tell you something about her. She didn't graduate from high school. She doesn't have a GED. Her children didn't go to Head Start or any early childhood education type programs. But let me tell you something else. Each of her children who were kindergarten ready, they knew their colors, they knew their numbers, they knew their shapes, they could count to 20. And this was a mother who did not have a high school diploma or a GED, but she knew she had to prepare her children. And so we talked about her strengths. And as we talked about her strengths, she got stronger, her posture got more erect. And as we worked her case, she became the driver for her own case. She would call us and say, Carlyn, Annie, when we file that motion, make sure you put this in it. And are you going to let me look at a copy of it before you file it? Because I want to make sure it has everything that I've done and accomplished since we've been working together. And that was the same woman who, months before, the agency said, I think we might be moving to TPR because she just doesn't seem like she wants to get her kids back. But what the agency didn't know that I knew is that Kelly had reached a point of hopelessness. She was ready to give up, and she knew at 11 months in for 2 of her children, over 15 months for the other 2 that were in foster care, and the infant who had just been placed in foster care, that she felt like she probably was not going to get her kids back. And so she had begun the mourning process of mourning and separating herself from her children. And it wasn't until she had counsel who said, wait a minute, we can do this, who empowered her when she was at her lowest point, that she regained herself and said, okay, I can fight for my babies. She needed somebody to help her face the giants. Now, there's a movie called Facing the Giants, and there's this clip on YouTube, very powerful. And in this movie, Coach is talking to a young boy on the team by the name of Brock. And Brock is concerned because they've got to play this other team that's bigger than them, stronger than them, has more resources than they do, more talented than they are. And he says, Coach, I don't think we can do it. Coach says, come here, Brock. He says, you can do it, and you're going to do it. You're the leader of this team. If you don't think you can, nobody else on the team will. And so then he told Jeremy, come down here, Jeremy. He said, Brock, you're going to do a death crawl where your knees can't hit the ground. And you're going to do it with Jeremy on your back. Brock said, okay, I think I can do it. I can give you 20 yards, Coach. Coach said, no, you're going to give me 50. And you're going to do it blindfolded. You're going to give me your best. He says, I don't know, Coach, but I'll try. Because, we'll do anything for our coaches, right? Anybody here play sports? And so he sets out on this death crawl, and he's got Jeremy on his back. Jeremy weighs 160 pounds, and he's going, and he's going. And he's tired now. It hurts. He feels the pain in his legs. He feels the pain in his shoulder. The weight on his back is too much. He says, Coach, I can't do it. Have I gotten there yet? Am I at the 50 yet? Am I there yet? Am I there yet? Coach, it hurts. I can't do it. I need to quit. And Coach is there with him, and he's saying, keep going, Brock. You got it. Keep going. Don't give up on me yet. You can do this. Give me your best. You can do this. Don't stop. And Brock continues to go, and he continues to inch. And at the end, He takes the blindfold off of Brock, and Brock is in the end zone, on the other side of the field. When Brock thought he could only do 20 yards, perhaps maybe give 50 yards, without realizing his own strength, with his coach right there pushing him along the way, he walked the entire football field with 160 pounds on his back, crawling it without hitting his knees on the ground. Our parents have an enormous amount of pressure and a lot of baggage on their backs. Our systems put a lot more on them. And then we require them to give us 20, give us 50, but do it alone. No, we've all got to get down and get there with them so that they can face the giants and get it done. They've got to get us to where we can also help them fix their flower beds. Because if it were you and you lost your child and you walk in after you've left your first hearing, you notice that half-eaten snack on the countertop. You walk down the hall, you step on that Lego. I've stepped on the Lego. And it hurts. But this pain hurts here. When you walk in that bedroom and those toys and books and things are all strewn across the place, you're left with an empty bed to look at. So we certainly know and understand when our parents go through periods of depression, acute onset depression, anger and anxiety. We can empathize and understand why. This is their new normal. And there's nobody in the room with them. There's no coach right there saying, hey, come back, you can do this. We can understand if there's a parent who has previously suffered with sobriety issues or recovery. If they relapse, we can empathize with that because they have new burdens, 160 pounds plus on their back. So it's our jobs as lawyers, judges, the agency, service providers, to ensure that we're walking with those parents along the way so that they can get to the end zone. There are over 400,000 children in foster care at any given day. That means there are over 400,000 flowers that are not in their flower gardens. We all have the tools to help them get back to their flower gardens, to get back to their flower beds. But we also have the tools to tend to the flower beds first. Because 80% of cases, of maltreatment cases, are neglect. How many flower beds are just simply neglected? But they have beautiful flowers within them. They just need some attention, love and care, some tools for that flower bed. And that's what we can do. We can do it together. We can do it in court. We can do it out of court. Whatever we've got to do to get Brock and the Kellys and the Jeremys in the end zone, we need to do it. And we've got the resources to do it today. All it takes is a little tool, a little know-how, and a little manpower to do it. Thank you so much for your time.